What's up, everybody? Welcome, episode number 3 of the RUDIS Wrestling Podcast. Matt, we are doing this podcast on a little more somber note than we were yesterday, although we still had a great performance. Man, we just had Kyle losing the finals. That was, man, that stunk, huh?
Yeah, I mean that's a bitter pill, but that's the nature of the beast when you get on that stage. I mean, things happen. Things
Yeah.
happen, so you got to take the good with the bad. You got to own it, win or lose, and that's the one thing about Kyle.
Yep, he'll come back.
Regardless of the result, he owns it either way. So, and that's the true sign of a champion, which he is. So.
So, let's go through this Matt, I feel silly going through this technique. And, I always say to my athletes, it's like, I'm going to tell you what's frequently used, right? And I'm going to tell you what's kind of a junk move because you don't see it used very often. Now, this move that Sadulaev hit, I don't know if they have this in Ohio. We call this the chest crusher. It's a total little kid's move. Do you guys call it the chest crusher or no?
Some variation of that.
Okay.
But yeah, I mean, I haven't seen that at this level before. Have you?
Yeah. I've never seen it at this level. I haven't seen it at the NCAA level, let alone the international level, let alone the world finals, let alone with two of the best wrestlers of all time. I mean, holy moly. I guess Sadulaev totally caught us off guard because like you're saying, when have you ever seen this before? I mean, so basically for those of you who didn't watch, and if you didn't watch, I don't know why you're listening to this show because you're not a wrestling fan, but Sadulaev hits a single leg to his left side, and essentially Kyle sprawls and kind of has him stuffed, and he reaches back and over to hook the arm, and he dumps Kyle, and on the way through the dump, he catches the other arm, so he has both of Kyle's arms, and and from there he traps one on his back, and eventually secures the fall. No one predicted this. I mean, who the heck predicts Kyle Snyder getting pinned in a chest? It's the most insane ending ever. The truth is really stranger than fiction here.
Yeah, and I think I saw some comments after the match. Why didn't Kyle roll through? Why didn't he try and fight both ways? But in freestyle, like if he rolls across his back, they're definitely going to call it a touch fall. So you don't have the luxury that you have in folk style. I mean, the only chance he had to fight through the situation was to actually fight back into Sadulaev. And actually, I went back and watched some footage of Sadulaev's earlier matches, and he actually did hit this same move earlier in the tournament. He did.
Which match? And how did I miss that?
I believe the first or second one, but track wrestling was just both guys were on the mat throughout the whole tournament, so they always featured Sadulaev or Snyder.
But I thought I wouldn't. I mean, you know what? I've actually watched, man, I'm like happy that this is my job a little bit now. It's not my full-time job. It's not all I do. But last year, it was like a hobby with the T-Row and Funky show. And so now I'm actually like partitioning time in my life off to watch all this film. So when we hop on this podcast, I know what the hell I'm talking about. And so I've had so much fun just being able to, take a couple hours out of my day and watch wrestling matches and click through. And, obviously I watched all of the American matches, but now, starting to go through the good foreign matches. I put something out on Twitter. Hey, what other matches were really good that I may have missed? So man, I'm kind of surprised I missed that because I've tried to watch most of the best matches in this tournament.
And I tell you what, there were some fantastic matches. I can't wait to get into them. Not only, the outstanding U.S. performances, but some of the foreign competitors, especially the 65 kilogram.
Oh, that was awesome. Yeah. I probably brought him up like 7 times at my practice last night that I was running.
At arguably. We'll get into that. that. Let's keep talking about the American contingent.
Yeah. So let's go to our good. Let's go to the good. We went to the bad first. Let's go to the good. I think the best of the good is Kyle Dake. Outscores his opponents 37-0. In the semis, he faced a guy, Gadzi Magomedov, who he had lost to, I want to say at the Urigan, if not some other.
Urigan finals, right?
Okay, Urigan finals, yes. And I think he got beat pretty solid. But, man, Kyle was just on fire. beats him 13-0. And then, in the finals was a low scoring match. Hasanov is hard to score on. Hasanov has been an opponent of Jordan Burroughs many times in the past, say 5 to 6 years. But Kyle, shut him down. Wasn't really in danger at any point in time. Looked totally awesome in his way to a world title.
Classic Kyle Dake, right?
Yeah,
I mean,
absolutely.
he went complete lockdown mode. He scored the takedown. After that, lock it down.
Yep.
We've seen that same match, 50 different times in high level situations from that guy. I mean, he showed what he's capable of leading up to the finals, just blowing through guys. What was he? 35-0 in the matches previous to that. And
I mean, Kyle's probably best when he gets that early lead and then people come after him, right? And I think Hasanov kind of felt that, and so even after Kyle scored the first takedown, he kind of bided his time, and I think he was thinking like, okay, maybe I'll wait till the end. I'll get one takedown and I win 2-2. I think that's probably what Hasanov was thinking as best case scenario.
No, for sure. And I think, I think one of the things that always impresses me about Dake in tight situations, you see some guys, and you saw it throughout the tournament, go in like panic defense mode where they're holding on to the lead and they get called for fleeing the hold, fleeing the situation.
Adam Batirov fell apart in the finals. My God.
All he had to do was step out of bounds. And he tries to defend. All he had to do. Step out. You win on criteria. You win a world championships.
Yeah.
So
absolutely.
So one thing I wanted to bring up about Dake, I wanted to get your take on this. I think there could be an argument that I actually think he might be the best overall athlete on the U.S. squad. What do you think? Not the most explosive, not the fastest, but he is so athletic.
We're talking just athleticism. I thought you were, just using that term as the best wrestler. No, and I don't think there's ever been. I don't think there's ever been an argument. But what you honestly have on the American team is a bunch of freak athletes. I mean, look at the things Jaden Cox can do as a 220-pound man. I mean, it's freaking outstanding. So, it's definitely possible, but it's a bunch of freaks in there. Like it's freak versus freak versus freak. I mean, that's what you're dealing with in this contingent.
Pick out your favorite. Pick out your favorite X-Men, and one of them's Wolverine. One of them's you name it. I mean, they're all freaks of nature in their own right. So Kyle Dake, man, extremely impressive. Extremely impressive.
And so one thing I wanted to bring up here, Matt, I wanted to kind of pat myself on the back. You got to do that sometimes in life.
Of course.
When Tommy and I, I don't know if you listened, it was our most listened to episode. We had almost 30,000 listens on it. No, I'm sorry. We had over that. We had, I think, because we had almost 30 on just SoundCloud. So I think we had like 50 total or whatever it was. Anyway, it was a lot. It was our best episode by far. And I put Kyle Dake as the 10th best American wrestler ever. And the argument I made, Matt, was that back in the day, there was 10 weight classes forever, right? From 1960 through, I think 96 was maybe when they reduced the weight classes. Maybe a few years later, I could be off on that by a couple of years. But either way,
right around that time period.
Right around there. 6 weight classes or 7 weight classes versus 10 weight classes. It's a totally different ball game. My argument, it's like, hey, if John Smith wrestles in the era where there's only 55 or 60, what was it, 65, 55 or 65 or whatever that big gap was. John Smith was a 136. So would he go down to 125 or would he go up to 145? It just messes everything up. And so my argument was this, is that, Kyle Dake's in a situation where he's behind arguably the best American ever, right? You can make a good argument for Jordan Burroughs. And he obviously can't go down to 145. Impossible. He can't go up to 180. He tried to go up to 189. And
he tried.
And he lost to a world champion, Jaden Cox, who I'm sure we'll be talking about in a few minutes. And so, if there was a weight class for him, you could argue that he'd be a world champion. And now he goes and proves us right. And so, hey, Matt, if they got 79 kilograms for since 2012 or whenever he came out, I think it was 2012, man, I mean, we could be looking at a guy who has 3, 4, 5 world and Olympic titles. And so,
I mean, he could possibly be in the same conversation as Jordan Burroughs
and John Smith. Right. And so I think that it's so annoying, because I think that the 6 to 7 weight classes totally changes the dynamic of how many world champions we have, how many world team members we have. And so I'm so happy. I'm so happy we finally went back to 10 weight classes. I would still make adjustments to the weights if I could, but 10 weight classes is so much better. It's worlds better than 6 and 7 weight classes. So I'm happy with that. I'm glad Kyle Dake is finally getting his due. I think he's probably likely been one of the best in the world for the last 5 to 6 years and just hasn't gotten the chance to prove it yet.
Yeah. Yeah, without a doubt. I mean, it's great. Excited for both he and David. I mean, both those guys, they showed, give them an opportunity, they're going to show you what you can do. I know they had guys that were doubting them about, well, they've never been on the world stage. Well, they've been on this stage plenty.
Yeah.
They just haven't had the opportunity at the world stage, but they showed that they were ready. They were capable, not more than capable. And
for sure.
It's pretty crazy to think in 2016, we had three world champs.
One weight class.
At the Olympic trials.
Yeah.
One weight class.
And really, wow. And a world silver medalist, because Herbert had previously achieved that in 2010 or 11.
Yep.
And so, so let's go to J'den Cox. Also has an amazing tournament. And you know what? Myself included, I was nervous for J'den. He didn't have the best year. He took a few L's. He didn't look great at at the Open. And, I think a lot of people were questioning how he was going to do. And obviously he came in unseeded. He had a great run. So he beats Dato Megrashvili 6-2. He beats Nick Seban 6-0. Karimi, I can't say his full name. We'll go with Karimi 5-2. Close enough. And then shuts out, beats Jankowski 4-1. I mean, and that's J'den Cox. J'den Cox doesn't blow people out. He doesn't blow the doors off, but he's going to win. He's almost impossible to score on. Very, very difficult. Looked great the whole tournament. I'm so happy for him.
No, for sure. And so when did he actually move out to the OTC?
To my knowledge, it was this winter. I don't know the exact month. He made that change. I think a lot of people in Missouri were happy for him. They knew it was a change he needed, and obviously now it paid off in a world title.
Yeah, I think that's the best version of J'den Cox I've seen. I mean, you can speak to it better than I. You know J'den inside and out. But yeah, my observation, I've never seen that version of J'den Cox before.
Yeah, and I thought he looked great. I didn't really think I didn't think it was that much better. I think it was how we knew, those who knew J'den real well, that was how we knew that he could wrestle. And so psyched to see him come through. And, really, if you think back to either last year or the year before, it's not like he was far off. I mean, in the semifinals of the Olympics, he lost 1-1. And so it wasn't like, he got 10-0'd in one of the previous years. He was always pretty close. And I think, and it's going to be interesting to see. I want to talk about next year in a second. But, I think this weight class is probably a more natural weight class for him. When you look at, I was just talking about the gap between 74 and 86, and then you also have this huge gap between 86 and 97. And he's been able to shrink down to 86. And 97, I think, is a little big for him. He's not big for that weight class. So 92 is a really good weight class for J'den.
So what does he typically walk around at?
I believe 210, right around there, maybe 215.
Okay.
From I know he's been bigger than that, but I think that's about where he goes at.
Okay.
Hey, you know what's something funny?
Yeah,
Matt, I just want to say I can't remember if it was our trial run episode, if it was actually episode 1, but I know we were talking about this last week. Was the guy from Mongolia that wrestled at Citadel? You remember that?
Yes.
He got a medal in his bracket.
It's crazy.
Oh, I'm sorry. He lost in the third place match, but
yeah, he did. He did.
That was crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
and that was one of my takeaways too. Like earlier in the tournament when the Mongolian got third, I think it was.
Mongolia had a good tournament, man. They were scrapping.
And their coaches managed to keep their clothes on this time, which was good to see, right?
Yes, of course, good to see. But no, Mongolia, I guess I heard someone say, it might have been Sparks, that they've put a lot of money into the development of the wrestling program, and it shows because let me just go through their lineup. At 57 kg, that guy Erdenabot, he was ranked very highly. And he ended up losing first round to the Iranian guy. But, I want to say he was top 5 ranking going into this. The 61 got a bronze, 65 took 7th, 70 took 5th. Genzoreg at 74, who's usually been pretty good, didn't place. And then they got 7th at 79. They got 5th at 92, at 8th at 97. So, man, I mean, really kind of, for a country who's not usually a powerhouse, Mongolia had a really good tournament.
They did. I was impressed with their entire team. So,
one thing I noticed watching the Mongolians is that they don't have a lot of offense. Great defensively, and I almost wonder: have you ever seen the Mongolian? You would call it their folk style wrestling.
No, I haven't.
They do the they got the boots on and the that is not a diaper. I don't know what it's called. Anyways, Google it right now, Matt.
Okay.
Just traditional Mongolian wrestling. But I kind of wonder it doesn't look like you're allowed to attack the legs if you watch that. It doesn't really allow to attack the legs, so maybe it looks like a lot of judo type throws. Are you watching this now?
I am.
Did you click on it? And they got the little vest on. Oh dang it. I muted my there you go.
What's it called here?
I don't know what it's called. I think it's just called Mongolian wrestling.
Is it Kash Batar? Traditional Mongolian wrestling.
It's pretty awesome, though.
Is that what it's called? Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, these guys get scrapped. So for those of you who are, you probably Googled this at home. If you're listening to us, you probably Googled this. But they have boots on. They have like some underwear and a strap, and then they have like a vest around their shoulders. And I don't know the exact scoring. It looks like you got to throw the dude on the back is what it looks like to me. So obviously, if you're doing that, it would you'd have great hips, a lot of good balance, but the leg attacks just aren't there, and that's what I see when I'm watching them wrestle.
Yeah. So
go ahead.
No. So I'm just looking at some.
Oh my gosh!
Too.
You see how big this guy is?
Oh yeah, gigantic. Jeez.
Yeah, and the other thing, Matt, that now we're getting way off track. Yeah, if you've listened to T-Rum Funky, I got ADHD and I kind of go off the rails sometimes. But
so let's
people kill us for having for loving folk style wrestling. But one of the things a lot of Americans don't realize is most of these countries like Mongolia, or I was in Tajikistan, I was in where else did I travel? Kyrgyzstan. They have traditional folk style wrestlings similar to this. Where they have their own style that has its own set of rules that's really, really freaking popular that a lot of people do. So I think that's funny watching these Mongolian wrestlers.
Yeah. And just like, I think sometimes people talk about how folk style is detrimental to freestyle. I would argue that same thing as this, like with the traditional Mongolian wrestling. I'm sure there's crossover benefits to their version of wrestling that translates into freestyle. So, hey, I did want to circle back to Jaden for a second.
Yeah, let's
go. Just ask you, just from a curiosity standpoint, is he the first world champ from Missouri?
Oh yeah, he was the first world medalist.
Okay.
Yeah, okay. I think I might have been either one of the first. Well, obviously Sammy Henson went there for a few years, but didn't graduate, so they kind of like don't really count him, I guess you will, if you will, because he graduated from Clemson. And so obviously if you were to count Sammy, he would be one. But besides that, I do not believe there are. I don't know that there was. I'm trying to think. I hope I'm not forgetting about it, but I don't think there's any world team members prior to me.
Yeah, I couldn't recall. I mean, I knew of Henson obviously, but like you said, I would probably say he's a Clemson grad more so than a Missouri wrestler.
Yeah, for sure. So, hey, I actually did a Facebook Live yesterday, Matt, because I just had these thoughts in my head, and I love being able to click the button and go. Okay, so Matt, for 2019, so let's think about this, and I want to know what your answer is. So I said USA Wrestling needs to come up with a plan, because essentially you have 4 world medalists for 2 weight classes in 2020, right? So when we go to 2020, it's going to be because I don't think any of these guys is going to bump up to take out Kyle. And if that's the case, it's still the same issue, just with a slightly different weight class. So you have 5 wrestlers, 3 weight classes. So for 2019, if you place at the World Championships, you have a bye to the Final X, right? So you have a huge
Yep.
advantage that you don't have to compete in these other tournaments and win a previous wrestle off, and you go into final X with an advantage. Well, so if say Dake and Cox stay at 79 and 92, which are non-Olympic weight classes, well, then whichever weight they choose to go then in 2020, if Taylor or Snyder or Burroughs, if those guys were to medal, then in 2020, Dake and Cox are going to have a leg down, right? They'll be at a disadvantage going to those trials. So I think for those guys, they're probably looking 2 years down the road right now to the Olympics and saying, I don't want to be at the disadvantage. I want to give myself the best opportunity possible to make the Olympic team. I mean, that's a reasonable thought. So then if that is the case, then they're probably saying, okay, in 2019, I need to go whatever Olympic weight I want to go in 2020. Well, if they do that, then you're not going to have Dake and Cox at these weight classes for the 2019 World Championships, which if you're America, you want your world champions in the freaking lineup. You definitely do. So how do you create a scenario where Dake and Cox can still wrestle 79 and 92, but have a fair shot in 2020 at the Olympic spot?
Well, maybe you create a caveat that if you win a world medal or win a world championship, it automatically I don't know. You automatically throw them into a best 2 out of 3 should they decide to go up or go down.
Yeah. And I was thinking maybe in 2019 that you could you could start it in 2019 and you could say if you're a world medalist and you choose to change weight classes, if you do not win that spot, you will have the ability to go wrestle off at your previous year's weight class. Do you see what I'm saying?
No, I think that's fair. Yeah. No, I think that's a great idea.
But then, so then whoever, say Dake goes to 74, right? We're just assuming where they're going. Dake goes to 74. So the loser of Dake Burroughs will then be able to challenge at whoever wins the 79 spot.
Challenge Derringer.
Right? Or it could be right. It could be Valencia. So
or it could be Valencia. Yeah.
So yeah, and I think that would just give you, if you're America, you want to, number one, both have the best team you can possibly have in 2019 and have the best team you possibly can in 2020. So I think you're going to try to create a scenario where you're getting those guys in the lineup, but you want to also not put them at a disadvantage. So I think they should look at doing something like that, because if we can keep these guys at the same weight class next year, they're obviously favorites to win another world title.
Yeah, I think the one thing that you have to think about there, and this is probably what the Russia contingent is saying right now about Sadulaev, is like to actually acclimate going up a weight or down a weight. It pretty much takes an entire year.
Yes.
Right.
Yep.
To adjust your body. You can't just say I'm going up a weight class. I mean, you look at Sadulaev from a year ago. I mean, you went up 24 pounds.
Yeah.
I mean, that does take some time to get acclimated. Or you ask James Green, who went from 70 kilos down to 65. You just can't take a couple months, suck down, shrink your body, and say you're ready to perform. That would be the one thing. Like how long in between those wrestle-offs do you give guys to actually build their body back up or shrink your body back down?
Matt, and I think this is the advantage with a lot of weight classes is the gaps are so much smaller, right?
True. Yes.
To go from 79 to 74. And, I think Dake even made a comment that he might have been a kilo or two under with the allowance the next day. And so you're in a situation where the weight class is a lot closer, right? It's not that 65 to 74, that's almost 20 pounds, 74 to 86, that's 24 pounds. And so, and then same gap from 86 to 97, right? You're making these huge jumps. And so when you shrink the space, you can move up and down a little bit easier. And the other thing there is, you're not saying Kyle Dake, you have to do this. You're saying we're giving you this option. If you feel like this is beneficial to you, we want to give you this option so we have the best possible team in both of these years.
I think you have to do that. And I think, after our performance the last 2 years, winning it a year ago, having a really, really strong performance, arguably one of our, from a medal standpoint,
one of our better ones.
It tied for 7 medals, tied for our best performance in a world championships from 1986 when we also had 7 medalists.
Yep.
So I mean, even though we got second, our strongest medal showing in history.
Yeah.
So I think,
And really, Matt,
Matt,
I had this argument with Tommy, is like back in those days when it's just the USSR, the brackets are so much simpler. I mean, placing at the World Championships today, you have how many Soviet countries? You know, you think some of these brackets, I think the biggest one might have been 32 wrestlers, I believe was the biggest one. Let me see. There was 32 wrestlers at 74 kg. There was 31 at 65 and 86. So how many of those are Soviet countries? Probably.
well, I mean, if you just look at 65 kilos, what was there, 5 or 6 returning world medalists, world champs, just at 65 kilos?
Yeah, but how many? What I'm
And
saying, how many of them are Soviet, right? Because if you're
yeah,
if you're in 1986, you're only going to have the USSR. You're not going to
yep.
have Tajikistan, Uzbekistan, Ukraine, right? So 7 medalists in 2018, in my opinion, is way more impressive than 7 medalists in 1986.
No, without a doubt. Without a doubt.
So
Yeah.
yeah, great performance. I think both of the last 2 years, absolutely. I think some people are disappointed we weren't able to win, but man, I don't really got anything bad to say about our performance. I thought we did great.
Again, I mean, you hate to say it, but hats off to Russia for what, three champs,
Yep.
0 champs a year ago, turned around 3 this year. I'm sure they were all, you know, yeah. I mean, when there's other sidebars to that conversation,
Well,
right? But
I mean, we can't prove it, but we can assume.
yeah, I mean, there's past history there,
Yeah,
right? So
absolutely.
maybe Putin decided to bring Gregory back in the country, right?
He just put tougher protocols on who can get in a test on them. That's all he
Yeah,
did.
yeah.
Okay.
But no, that sounded like sour grapes. You get Russia wrestled
Sour grape.
their
Listen,
tails off. Yeah,
I don't mind a little sour grapes here and there, Matt. I'm not happy we lost. And
no,
if you watch Icarus, if you got half a brain, you can come to a conclusion, which you obviously did, and I did also, that there has been a significant amount of cheating in Russia's past.
yeah. So it did. It's up for discussion. But yeah, I think there's plenty of other
Okay,
things we can talk about. I
sure.
mean,
Let's go to
what was
57
this?
kilograms.
Yeah,
It's a Russian champ, Ugaev. Let's talk about Gilman. I am unabashedly not really a huge Gilman fan. I'm actually excited for the Spencer Lee Dayton Fix era to begin. Dayton Fix was fairly close to making the team this year. And I think Spencer Lee is going to be a great representative moving forward. Also, I got it.
but I think you know what. I'll jump in there though.
Go ahead.
You got to give it to Gilman. I think a lot of people were ready to turn the page before we were actually prepared. You got to give him credit. Like he stepped up, he made another team, and he was in a position to win another world medal where people were basically writing him off or dismissing him as,
Yeah.
And already introducing whatever it's going to be, the Spencer Lee or the Dayton Fix era or one and the same. But I think you got to give the guy credit for making the team. I mean, he controlled Fix to make the world team in Final X. And I thought he actually wrestled pretty well leading up to the semifinals. I think I was extremely impressed with his execution plan and his discipline in getting to the semifinals. But then on the flip side, I thought he was almost too rigid in his execution, and he didn't know when to deviate from the game plan. So
At the World Championships.
At the World Championship. So as a coach, I was extremely impressed with his execution and his discipline. But then at the same time, if you break down his semifinal match and his bronze medal match, you're like, I think he got, maybe too focused on
the pushing, too stuck in the pushing.
Yeah. Just looking for that one all the time.
Yeah, I mean, the other thing that I think, I think that maybe a difference from this year to last year, because they obviously did a lot of pushing last year as well, is that people realize he's not that tricky, right? He's not going to bring Burrow's offense or Dake offense or Taylor offense, and so they can kind of be okay with him pushing because they know he's only probably going to do one shot. It's probably going to be a head inside single leg, and that's it right there. They know what to expect out of him, so they don't have to be as on guard when they're in defense when he's pushing on them.
Right, but it also, I think, when you understand your limitations, and that takes a lot of maturity to
Yeah.
understand your limitations. And for Gilman to actually understand, well, this is what I can do. I got to stay in this lane. I can't deviate. So it's impressive that he actually has that level of maturity to understand what his limitations are and where he's got to push guys into to have success. And I was impressed with him. I think, like I said, I think people were ready to dismiss him, ready to move on to the next era, and I thought he acquitted himself pretty well this weekend or the last couple of days.
Sure. Hey, so what'd you think about the final? That he obviously lost on a singlet pull point. He did the old Sargouche, but it was the third time he pulled on the singlet, and very, very, very blatantly. I don't know what he was doing, because in that situation, I don't feel he. So for this one, he was in a front headlock. I don't think grabbing the singlet helped him at all. What the hell was he doing?
No, all you had to do is post on the hip. Why grab
Why grab
a
the
handful of
singlet?
singlet? Just post on the hip, circle away, circle. Yeah,
That was mind blowing.
I mean,
That was mind blowing to me, Matt. It really was.
yeah, I think it looked like the ref was like just kind of like raised his hands, like you know what I have to call here, right? I
Yeah,
mean,
because
you're not
it was the
you're not even
third
giving me a
warning.
choice.
It was the third warning. Can't give
Yeah.
someone 3 warnings. I thought he should get called on the second one. Yeah, so man, just that was blown away that he just kept grabbing it. He just had, I mean,
And obviously
wow.
that wasn't the first time he's ever done this,
No,
because
absolutely not.
there wasn't even a look of protest on his face. He's like, "Yep, you got me." That's kind of what I do in those situations.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, so let's go 60. So we talked about 61 yesterday. Let's go 65. Man, I think both you and I were, and I think we talked about this match a little bit we talked about Chikaev Odoguru on yesterday's episode. Man, Odoguru versus Bahrain, that match, it delivered. It was freaking awesome.
Yeah. I mean, and Odoguru, I mean, how impressive is this? 19 years old,
Yep.
winning. I don't think even arguably he won the deepest weight class in the tournament. When you count up the
Yeah.
returning world medalists, world champs that were in that weight class, hands down the best weight class of the tournament, and he made it look relatively easy. Well,
Yeah, this weight class is crazy though, Matt, because Haji Aliyev, which I think, was, I don't know if he was a favorite. If he wasn't the favorite, he was very close to favorite coming into this tournament. I mean, he gets knocked out first round. First round, he's done. He gets beat by Valdez Tobier. Kind of just got shut down 2-0. And then the other guy, obviously, Stieber lost first round to Chikaev, but then I always struggled with this guy's name, but Kinchikvili. Am I even close on that one? Do you know his name?
I think you're in the ballpark.
Okay.
I don't even think I could do that good.
I mean, he got killed by Chikaev. So, all of those guys who were out early, all really, really, I believe those three are all world champions at some point in their career. So yeah, super deep weight class, and man, was Odoguru impressive.
Yeah, I mean, I was impressed with the wrestler from India.
Oh,
I mean, he was bringing heat. He was bringing heat.
Yes, he was, for sure. He just wasn't quite slick enough to keep up when Odoguru decided to turn on the jets and really start going. The Indian guy Bahrain he just couldn't keep up with the pace and the speed when he did decide to turn it up.
Yeah, I was extremely impressed, and I kind of like to look at the American wrestlers and cheer for the American wrestlers, but that guy from Japan, Odoguru, he made a fan out of me. I'll be watching him closely over the next. Well, shoot, it could be the next decade. He's 19 years old, but I think as a wrestling fan, in general, I think as I was watching this match, and I texted you, I was like, I'd love to see Yanni. This matchup with he and Yanni.
Well,
and I think
this weight class, Matt, is going to be fascinating because, essentially this year Stieber won, and obviously he lost to Jaden Ironman, which was a great match by Jaden Ironman, and he kind of had a close match with McKenna. But think about who you had sitting out here who didn't even participate, all for various reasons of their own. Jordan Oliver, Yanni, and Zane Rutherford. So when you throw those three into the mix next year, this becomes a totally different weight domestically. And frankly, man, that's going to be a tough tough choice who's coming out on top of that one.
Yeah, I mean, each brings a different set of skills
Yeah,
to
absolutely.
the mat, and I think what it plays out when you have 4 or 5 deep like that, a lot of it comes down to
Yes.
stylistically who matches up with who, and it's not necessary. I don't think in this situation you can point to one guy and say, "Yeah, this guy is head and shoulders the favorite here." I think it's a
No,
matter of,
not at all.
what skill sets match up given the timing of the tournament and the situation. So it'll be interesting to see how those play out, and yeah,
So yeah, I'm excited
that'll
to
be
see the
a
representative
fun
there.
discussion.
That's gonna be a really fun weight class domestically the next couple of years. I'm also really excited to see where Jason Nolf goes after he graduates next year. Because man, I'll be honest with you, Matt. When we talked about James Green for a minute yesterday, I forgot to watch that match before we started talking about it. So I went back and watched it, and he did not look good. He really didn't. So I think that's a spot that's available for maybe to Jason Nolf or someone else to try to unseat James Green as the favorite there.
And I mean, I said this yesterday when I was talking about Burrows a little bit, and I'll bring this back up with James Green because I think it's at least worthy of a discussion that since both James and Jordan both train out of Lincoln,
Mhm.
they're both in the same room. They probably have their training schedule probably closely resembles
Yeah,
each
I would
other. I
I
don't
would
think it'd be
assume.
exactly the same, but I mean, for me, it looked like he didn't have his pop. I mean, and you said, I mean, obviously with Green, he doesn't have a lot of offensive output per match,
Yeah,
but usually when he does decide to go, he scores. Yesterday, I think he had 3 attempts in 2 matches, and for me, I just automatically jumped. My first thought is, doesn't look like he has his pop. Looks like he's a little bit off. Is there a possibility that he was slightly overtrained for this event?
yeah,
Because as you know, being in this situation, plus or minus 1% is the difference. I mean, it doesn't even have to be 5, 10%. 1%
yeah.
less than
Y
your
y
optimal level
Absolutely.
is enough to be the tipping point. And he just I mean, the guy's been second and third at the previous 2 at
Yeah,
the Olympics and the World Games. So, I mean, to see him look that off and that flat, I mean, that's the thought that came into my mind.
yeah.
I don't know if you have
No,
any
I
additional thoughts about that.
I totally agree, and we kinda covered that yesterday. So, that'll be another weight that I'm excited to see domestically. It'll also be interesting to see if that weight vacates, right? Because that's not an Olympic weight class in 2 years. So, maybe James Green starts moving 2 years ahead of time instead of, 1 year ahead of time. Um,
And I don't have I mean, just from an outsider looking in, I mean, as close as I am to the Penn State guys, we don't get in depth and discuss the guys in their team, but it doesn't look like Nolf walks around that heavy. I mean,
no, definitely not.
you would think 65 is more going down is
Yes.
more the logical
Oh, you
conversation
think Nolf can go to
than going up.
65?
I don't know.
Oh, I don't know about that.
I mean, you were around him a couple months ago. I mean,
I was
what does he
no,
walk
he doesn't
what
seem
does he
that
walk around
small.
at?
I didn't ask him, but
He doesn't.
he does not seem
Okay.
that small at all. I mean, so I think you know what, I think 70 kg is a great weight class for him, especially when you're talking day of. Obviously not an
No,
Olympic, yeah,
I was
for the
actually
Olympic year.
fast forwarding to
Yeah,
2020,
that's
yeah.
that's that, that
And
that's a tougher choice. Uh,
yeah.
but I think it's like I think it's a James Green case. James Green tried to make 65 kg and he did, but he didn't make 65 kg and was able to wrestle well, right? He wrestled like dog crap because he can't do it. He just can't. His body can't function at that weight.
Yeah, and I mean, we talked about it with Dake. I think Dake is a perfect 79 kilo guy,
Yeah,
right? Just
yeah,
like Green is a perfect 70 kilo guy. And unfortunately, when it comes to the Olympic year, there's going to be those discussion pieces. It's not like he could be the best guy. He's just not the best guy at this weight class because his body doesn't fit the weight class, right?
yeah, definitely. So hey, listen, I didn't realize Adam Batirov still didn't have a world medal. I mean, his brother Mavlet was one of my favorites to watch. I mean, that guy he was a technical wizard. Uh, and Adam
And
Batirov,
he was 2004. his brother,
I
right?
think he won in 2004 and 2008, if I remember correctly. I mean,
Yeah.
just total beast. And so Adam, he won 3 Eurigans, but he never had a world medal to this point. And he's a lot older now. He's 33. And so, man, he was cruising in the final. And listen, part of me, Matt, says he was either paid off or felt guilty for beating Russia because he freaking fell apart. In the last 90 seconds, he fell apart. The wheels totally fell off.
Yeah, and I mean, it's one of those things that you always you talk to your guys about at a very young age, right? You can never switch off your mentality, and when you always preach and coach like scoring points, putting points on the board, once you once you flip that switch and go into defensive mode, I mean, you can't turn that switch back on, and typically it heads south very, very
But
quickly.
how south did that head, Matt? That was like a freaking 180. I mean,
Yeah,
literally, it
I mean,
was
I was
like
shocked.
he went out of bounds twice in like what was it, 9 seconds, and then he got
Yeah.
that call for a caution and won because he was just going freaking straight backwards. And then you said it earlier. He literally could have stepped out of bounds and won the world title 6-6, and he just like falls over. It was bizarre. It was bizarre to me.
Because that's the thing, Ben. I mean, when you're training guys at that level, you work on short time execution all the time.
Absolutely.
Both up by one, down by one,
Yeah.
but you prepare for those execution areas, short time lead, short time deficit, right?
Yes.
And it's like he completely came unglued. So I think
so
it's
bad.
Yeah.
Wow, crazy. So hey, last thing let's hit today. So the women's team not having as good of a go as the men's team did. So we have the first 2 weight classes are over. Jakara Winchester didn't get the medal. She finished in 5th place. And then in the weight classes of today, Allie Reagan made oh my gosh, Allie Reagan. Wow, where did I come up with that one? Adeline Gray makes another world final. She this will be her 4th world final. She's going for her 7th.
Her 4th.
Yeah, because she has 3 golds and 2 bronzes. So 4th world final she's made. Going for her 6th world level medal. Looking great so far. I'd assume that, and I don't know women's wrestling, I know men's wrestling. I'd have to assume that she's the favorite tomorrow. The girl that she beat this morning was the 2016 Olympic champion. So I think out of her, we're looking for another world title for America.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure she's plenty motivated by her, I'm sure the sting of 2016 over in London still is in the back of her mind, is still motivating her to chase down another world gold medal. So, hey, she looked the part today. Hopefully she can continue it tomorrow.
Absolutely. So, Matt, I'm busy the rest of the week. You're always busy. We're going to hop back on here early next week. We're going to close out the women's division. We're going to close out the Greco, talk about some overall thoughts from these world championships. I'm already looking forward to, we kind of started this late and we were kind of thinking about going to Budapest, but you and I, we're going to go to Astana, Kazakhstan. And I'm freaking pumped. So
we will be there.
I've already been looking at hotel rooms and stuff, man. I'm pretty psyched for this. I know not very many people will be excited about going to Astana, Kazakhstan, but I love to travel. So, it's one of those things where you never thought you'd end up in freaking Astana, Kazakhstan, did you?
No, no.
But we're going.
And I can't wait. But even more exciting than that is we got the college season a week away as well.
Yeah, that's
so
much
got
fun.
A lot.
And I'll be at Super 32 all weekend. Going down there with a handful of guys from my team. This is a busy weekend for us because we have both the preseason nationals. We were sending a whole bunch of guys to, and then taking a small contingent down to the Super 32, which, in my opinion, best high school tournament in the country. It is freaking stacked. So we'll definitely give. We're gonna finish up these world championships, and we'll give a recap of Super 32 next week.
Okay, sounds good, Ben. Look forward to talking to you next week.
All right, Matt. Have a great day.
Take care.